was a college student at Ozark Christian College, and I was working at a church called Christ Church of Oronogo. I had become the junior high youth pastor there, and part of my job was to lead a small group of boys every week in kind of a Bible study small group atmosphere. And so I decided that what I was going to do was take these boys, and in each week we were going to go on an adventure together. We were going to find a spot, stop, and we're going to just study the Bible together. And over the next several years, as these young men and myself began to do this process where we would do crazy stuff. We would get up on top of a building to do our Bible study, or we would go out into the woods and go hiking and stop and find a place to do our Bible study. But what I found is over those years of spending time investing in these young men, my life began to change. It wasn't just their life that was changing, but my life began to change. And there are still some young men that I look at today, and I think about the relationship that we have. I still value it. When I see them, if I'm out at a movie theater or something in Joplin, and I see those kids, they're now guys with kids themselves. When I see them, I am reminded of the difference that I was able to make in their life and that they made in my life. Today, what I want to talk about with you for just a few moments is how to have a really exceptional small group experience with your students. Now, you're going to be working with children. You're not going to be working with high school or middle school students. But I think a lot of the same principles that I used to make that time engaging for those students still applies to what you're going to be doing. So I want to talk real quickly about how do you make small groups engaging. We have all the curriculum for you. We've got all the questions that you're going to be asking, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a human element that's involved in making this small group time something that matters to you and especially matters to those students. First thing that I would say is this, that if you want to make your small group engaging, you need to treat it like it's the most exciting thing you've ever done. The reality is, most of the time, those kids are going to act about as half as excited as you act. And so when you come in, you need to be engaged. You need to be on top of greeting those kids and talking to them and inviting them in. Don't spend your time talking to the other adults. There's plenty of time to do that. Spend your time with the students. Make it like it's the most exciting thing you've ever done. Second thing that I would say is you need to be prepared to think on your feet. If you know anything about students, if you know anything about little kids, you know that they are anything other than predictable. They change, they grow, they're coming here. Some of them are coming out of a car that mom and dad have just been fighting on the way to church, and they know they're supposed to pretend like everything's okay, but they don't know how to. Some of them are at home, and their families are just falling apart, and they can't go to sleep at night because they're worried their parents are going to get a divorce. And so the message that you have to talk about today may not really be what those kids is like the most important thing on their heart. And so you have to be, as the adult, ready to think on your feet, ready to love them, ready to engage them. And I think if you can be that kind of person who is agile and able to move, think on your feet real quickly, that you'll find that your experience engaging these students is going to be really at a high level. The next thing that I would really encourage you to think about, the third thing, is to be age appropriate. Know your students. Know the group that you're with. You don't have to come up here at this high biblical level and tell them all the Greek words and how the historical accuracy of particular things. If they're not sixth graders or fifth graders, if you're dealing with preschoolers, you need to help them just understand the principles of the Bible story. I think our curriculum does a really good job of helping you navigate that, but it's important that you, again, as you think on your feet, to make sure that what you're giving these students is age appropriate. Another thing that I found, and this is going to seem a little odd, but is one of the ways that you can really get kids to engage in your small group is to use some healthy competition. So this would be the fourth thing, using healthy competition. What this means is sometimes you might say, hey, let's open the Bible and see who can get there the fastest. Now, one of the things that you really need to keep in mind if you're going to engage in healthy competition is to not let it get out of control and to make sure that the kids who aren't winning all the time know that it's really okay. So if you say, let's see who can get to this Bible verse the fastest, the kid who gets there and they get there last, you need to really make a big deal about, hey, it's so great that you still got there. How awesome is that, guys? You just make a big deal about those kids and help them know that it's okay to not be first, but using that competition will drive up the level of engagement that kids have with you. The fifth thing that I would encourage you to do is to really think about how compelling you're being. There's going to be questions that you ask that these kids just kind of go, oh, because they're tired. They stayed up late last night watching Netflix all night. Their parents fell asleep and forgot they were doing it, and they've just been all night long staying up, and these kids are tired. And so if you can make what you're teaching compelling, if you can put some passion into it, if you can bring up stories from your own childhood that maybe make you look a little goofy or make you look a little funny, and help them realize that you used to be a kid too. There are ways to be compelling with these kids, these students, and that will really draw them in, engage them with you. One of the sixth thing that I'd encourage you to do is to really think about how challenging you're making it. Kids don't want this small group experience to just be easy. They want it to challenge them. They want it to get them thinking and to push them. So, again, we're trying to be age appropriate, but there's also this level of going too low and not challenging the students and asking them some hard questions. And so be ready to really challenge and push the kids. This is where kind of getting to know your students really matters, because as you get to know them, you're going to start to get to know what their life is like and how they live their life for Jesus, and you can start to push them a little bit. One of my favorite conversations that I ever had with a kid was, I finally just stopped one day and I said, hey, why aren't you just accepting Jesus? You know all of this. We've talked about it forever. What's keeping you from actually making a decision for Jesus? And that led to this really productive conversation when I was just talking about what it was that was keeping the student from Jesus. Next thing I would encourage you to do is have fun. It is really, really okay to just have fun with these students, to laugh and to make jokes, and to one of the things that I used to do a lot is I would give kids fun nicknames. There was one kid I called him Cheeto, because he would come into church every day and he'd be eating a bag of Cheetos and his fingers would be covered with Cheeto dust, and he would always grab my shirt and leave orange spots all over me. And so I just started calling him Cheeto. The name kind of stuck. Everybody called him Cheeto. There are plenty of ways to have fun. You need to do it with who you are, but engaging those students and having fun is going to make a huge difference. This is the last one that I'd really encourage you to do, is for you to be in charge. I don't mean for you to come in and for you to be mean and for you to have to say things that are hard for the students to listen to or any of that kind of stuff. But what I mean is that you take charge of the group, that when those students are there, that they're there to hear from you and hear what God is bringing to them through you. And if a student is out of control, if they're going crazy, it's okay to call their parents down. It's okay to talk to their parents after church and say, hey, I'm really struggling with little Mikey. Can you help me understand? Are there some strategies that you use at home to engage him and to get him involved? And I think if you can start to think about this as that you really are in charge of those students, you really are in charge of not just their behavior, but you're in charge of their spiritual well-being. I think you'll find that as you take that step of leadership, that you're going to start to see your students really growing and excelling as you invest time after time after time with them. Remember, this children's ministry thing is not something that is it's not a microwave. It doesn't happen instantly. We don't put set the time to 30 seconds, push start, and the thing just is done. Children's ministry and ministry in general is a crock pot. It is slow, it's very intentional, and it happens over time. And as we put that work in, what we see is that there are these beautiful aromas that start to mix together, and we start to see a life that becomes a life that's lived for God. I'm excited about you helping our kids find their way home to God, and I hope that this little quick, just a lesson on how to make small groups engaging is really helpful for you as you look forward to doing your ministry at our church.